Hello, everybody, and welcome to our monthly Iconographers meeting. Today is 25th of March, and I announced the topic to be the color in all icons, but I was wrong. So I was thinking to speak about symbology and even made a quiz, but my whole research after I announced the topic brought me to understanding that the whole thing was wrong. The whole topic was wrong. The very substance of color for our ancestors was much less concrete than it is for us. So that's the main problem. Like last few years, I saw several books about color in certain periods of human history. And there were investigations, but made as, very popular books like, role of color in the history, all types of dyes and paints. And they all say how relative are the names of the colors, or were the names of the colors, sorry. From Cennino Cennini, where we can get very specific artistic titles of colors, which sound like terms, we have one side of it. So like in this painter school, we would have this name for this color. In other school, they would have a different name for the same color. And in Russian, for example, the process of highlighting the face, we call with a word deriving from the ochre. So we do ochering. You probably have heard that from somewhere, but that's what we actually do when we apply highlighting on the face or skin tone. So we ochre it. In Italy, they had other terms and also related to areas where pigments were excavated. So every pigment would have some very different names in different historical periods. And even in the Bible, if you take the Bible as a reference, literally in Apocalypse, we read the description of the New Jerusalem, and it sounds like this. The city shone with the glory of God, and its brilliance was like that of a very precious jewel, like a jasper, clear as a crystal. We know what jasper is, but according to some people, John means quartz with shades of green, blue, and red. Literal jasper is not clear. There are lots and lots of investigations, and they all discover some different meaning for it. Like in Russian, we used to have this translation into amber, because maybe they were thinking amber is most mysterious color. And another version says it's the finest form of diamond, one of the clearest luster, and sets forth Christ's character, which is endured, as well as his character, which is desirable. And yet another version says that jasper is lapis lazuli. Overall, we can say that John was struggling to explain what he sees in terms others could understand, using the most relevant image he could think of. Reading these things, we have a choice. We can get obsessed to identify the very real stone, the most true term, and then to find the best stone or color of identifiable type. But then we do what when we find this very stone? Like, okay, this is what they meant, but how is it related to the reality? And another thing, another possibility we have to is to look with our own eyes, considering how the ancestors really use the colors. And that would be the whole another world. Now I want to slowly move to the visual kingdom, but on the way to the kingdom, where I want to say a word about symbolism of color, yet still. It does exist, but it's not what we think it is. I guess the main problem with symbolism is that we have a temptation to immediately interpret it in words. Like we see a martyr in red garments, we say, we know why is the person on this icon is in red. It's because red is symbol of resurrection, life, fire, and hundreds of other meanings. But if we follow the road further, we'll have to say that icon is a map of symbolic countries, where this part symbolizes this, that part symbolizes this, and altogether they create a meaningful puzzle where the role of an artist was to encrypt a certain message into these symbolic patterns, symbolic specific signs, or yes, encryption. And altogether, our role as the viewer, as a beholder, will be to decrypt this message. Is that what a beholder would do, staying in a church or sitting in church and praying with an icon, decrypting the message of the artist? Well, for me, this reminds early internet when we used modem. You probably remember modulation, demodulation. So like you make a specific encryption for people to decrypt your message afterwards. But for me, the problem is that all this stuff is always interpreted in verbal, invented for verbals and enjoyed by verbals only. That's not how it was intended. How can I be so sure? Well, that's an easy question. If you want to say something, you say it. If you can't find words and you can only deliver the message you wish to deliver through music, you make music. If you feel that the paint will be the best vehicle to deliver what you want to explore, what you want to express, go for it. Use paint. So why would artists suffer and kill themselves encrypting the verbal message if they did become artists to enjoy their love for art? For visual people, symbolism of color is realized through interaction with other colors, through its poetic and metaphorical vision. At the same time, it's a tool delivering visual information, but delivering it with rhythm, with many things which call diverse messages in our being, in our brain, but not requiring verbal interpretation necessarily. So how it works? Now I will show you in a very simplistic and a straight way. I know that most of you would have done this consciously or unconsciously already, but I just hope that showing you certain approaches may enrich your practice of vision. So let's look at these images now, and I will continue sharing my screen and show you the next one. Here you see the red color first. Yes, the red garment is the brightest one. And why would it happen? The artist couldn't make image of Christ red. So he or she took another path and made a secondary figure red. But the very way this red is supported from different sides, it's a true poetry, because it's too plain to be the only point of interest for our vision. And we see how other colors, how other details of the image support it. Green and yellow are echoing it, and the green is repeated almost exactly on the top. So the idea of the artist is not to play with alternation, red, green, blue, and other, but to find a way to make you take the image seriously. So this was the goal, to make it look odd in certain aspects, so that we would always have little wow effects all the time, little discoveries and little shift of focus all the time. Like the whitish purple on Moses. Wow, it's encountered no other part of the icon. We don't see it anywhere else. Or green on Elijah. And it's the same green as we see on John's figure. Why would that be? Maybe the artist wants us to consider these two personalities as having something in common. And we don't say it with words. We don't need to translate it. We perceive this message via non-verbal communication, and we are expected to process it non-verbally too. Or, okay, look at this one. We see Jesus in pink. Would you personally dare to paint an icon for your client which would have such a pink without risk being blamed for blasphemy? Because this artist did something very unusual for what we used to consider canon. So we can say, is this canonical or non-canonical? We can apply lots and lots of other verbal problems to this, but I would say this delicacy and care could only be performed with a genius artist. So that's how we can appreciate it and understand it. I would say even he's so genius that he was able to deliver so successfully his message or her message with such a very, very specific and bright and, I don't know, even terrific color, if seen in other contexts or if named by name. Tell someone, Jesus in pink. You'll see the person very surprised. But I can say we can compare it probably with Song of Songs, talking about very controversial subjects in such a noble and virtuous way. Just imagine yourself mixing this pink. I can't. Or it would require, I don't know, hours and hours and even days of finding the right shade. And this artist did, and it's a success. It's just a perfect balance between total darkness of Theotokos and transparency of the same pink on John the Theologian, but altogether they create a wonderful book, wonderful poetry, wonderful story, which grasps our attention and allows us to stay focused and meditating, even though the colors are very, very, very odd for us. And let's move forward, and it's a wall of Tretyakov Gallery, the main museum in Moscow. And on the right, you see the line of icons, which we used to call deises. And you probably know that we see image of Christ, and next to the image of Christ, opposite to the Mother of God, there should be John the Baptist. So we are missing, yes? We don't have one icon here. We should imagine it's there. Anyway, I suggest thinking of how the color combinations are rendered. Like, for example, how heavy and opaque is the color of the Mother of God. Yes, it's total earth. We see nothing through this. It's almost black. And this opaqueness and blackness of this color suggests that the archangels next to the Mother of God, and I guess probably next to John the Baptist, were supposed to be behaving totally different way. So the opaque Mother of God suggested your eye needs to completely switch to a very different perception, going toward the archangel, much more translucent, much more decorated, and with colors which complement each other. So the red on one side will complement the green on the other side, very far from that one, but keeping them part of one line of icons. It's like rhythm in a poetry. And after that, what we see, Peter and Paul, are they so bright as the angels? They're not. Are they so decorated? They're not. But do they resemble the image of Theotokos? Not at all, because they are much lighter. So yes, they are more plain, they are archangels, but they are plain and colorful, because that was the idea of the artist. So that's how the color symbolism works. It works with parallel parts, with the metaphorical vision of how we perceive this image altogether, how they function as an ensemble. And here, I suggest we have a quiz. I will show you 4 versions of this icon and ask you which of the 4 is original, because I made some modifications in Photoshop. And let's say this is number 1, this is number 2, this is number 3, and this is number 4. I'll go back. Sorry. Here it is. Number 1, number 2, number 3, and number 4. I should have put them all together, but I just wanted you to see how easy it is to ruin a thing, or how difficult it is to find appropriate balance of everything. Because I don't say it's Constantinople, yes, I think it's some provincial icon from Russian north. This person had probably never seen greatest models of iconography, greatest, I don't know, images we can see now, but how delicately, carefully this person did the job. So if you like to answer me, I'm happy to listen to you. Oops, too far. 3, 2, 1. 1. Peter, you'd like to say something? 1.
Yeah, I think the first one is the original, but it has faded.
Okay.
And that some pigments fade more than others. So red will tend. Well, I don't know whether it's in ancient art, but certainly in more even billboards and things like that, or signposts, red seems to fade to pink faster than other colors.
Okay, so that's an approach of someone who knows how the colors behave. But I told you I modified 3 of these images. So the question is, which of the 4 you prefer to have at home? Let's put it that way. So number 1, number 2. Yes, I'm keeping number 2. Number 3. Maybe a little longer. I should keep number 3 because last time it wasn't. And number 4. So which one you think you would prefer to have at home? Juliana, you're muted. We do not hear you. You should unmute yourself.
I prefer number 4.
Okay, we can vote.
Yes, I think I do too. I don't like 2 and 3.
Okay. Raphael, how about you?
Oh, I prefer number 1.
You prefer number 1. Okay, good. Now, first, they all were modified by the photo camera and by the varnish they had applied, etc. So we cannot say one of them is really original, but technically the number 4 is more the most intact, so the most correct. And I wanted just to go through the properties of the colors, or someone would like to do it, because if I were to interpret them, I would say that the red is brightest. Yes, it is really brightest color, but it's not too bright. So it has a certain level of brightness. And to calm it down, we have the blue, which is not bright at all. So which goes much more toward the black, which is much faded compared to the red. It's darker and it's less colorful. Yes, it has less property shining of the color substance. So that's how these 2 can work together. And in these in these versions, I tried to make red maybe a little too strong, or like over-saturated, but when it is oversaturated, it starts competing with the blue. Yes, the blue gets too strong in the same field of dark colors in which the red is working. So this red with the dark blue are altogether creating a confusion. They give little too much weight to the image, so we are worried more about their relationships and we don't look at the face. Yes? And if you look at that one, I would say the blue is way too strong, so it doesn't look like anything authentic, so probably a little too contemporary for the comparison. So yeah, that's not right, even though all the other colors are good, but I would say the blue is going over the limits established by the red, which is the brightest. Yeah, going off the limits, over the limits, is probably not really good. And here I have faded the red, the blue was faded already. So we only have face as the brightest, as the most attractive part of the image. But yet, to have the face as a good focusing point, we need support. We need other colors to play secondary companions to the main part so that we don't feel distracted by the gap between the power and strength of the face and the faded surroundings. Yes? So, Peter, I agree with you that it's a good one. It's I would say it's number 2, but yet it's little, not enough strength for the secondary colors to accompany the face. Yes, so that's why I would say it's not good enough. And the artists achieve this balance by finding appropriate relationships. And I would even suggest you to look at the yellowishness of the halo and the yellowishness which we see on the garment beneath. So the yellow here and the yellow there work very well together. And yet their very delicate relationship has just subtle support to the red, which is strongest and most powerful. I shouldn't say this in word because we are supposed to sense it. But yet, as artists who speak about things in technical terms, we can discuss these things because we are supposed to evaluate how we make our tools function. Like, oh, you're using this tool? Well, you probably should use this tool in a different way because it's now getting you a wrong result. So that's what it's all about, okay? And we move forward, and now it's an opposite thing. Because in this center, we only have 2 colors. Not much to worry about. Okay, 3, yes. He has some highlights on the knee. So we have 2 shades of green and the skin tone. Not much to choose from. Yes, but these colors are supported by multicolored scenes of his life. And the proposal is to think whether these artists would dare to make an icon of just a figure in green garment without the surrounding scenes. I don't think so. He or she would invented something to give our eyes enough food to be able to contemplate with this image for a long time. With the scenes of the life from St. Alex's, we have enough food. We can always be, I say this word, distracted and naturally go to see what his life was about and return to the center without feeling the emptiness or lack of something, because we have enough food for our eyes. Yet, that was again a decision. What kind of green? How strong should it be? What relationship be between red, body color, and green? So body color is brightest in this case, even though normally the garment is brighter. But the artist wanted us to feel the energy of the body and not the energy of the garment. a decision, many decisions. Here, I'm sorry, I have glued together two photographs and it wasn't a perfect connection, but you see, it's a line of apostles walking towards Christ to receive communion. And I just want you to see, well, we can say symbology, but I would say a careful choice of colors the iconographer made. So we say gray and red, then green and blue, then gray and yellow, then red and blue, then again, gray and green, red and gray. So it's all looks like alternation, but yeah, every time we look at something, at the figure, the artist is breaking our expectations. Our expectations are not fulfilled because every time it's a new decision. Like, okay, it's something you don't feel these figures to be an ornament, a decoration with rhythm. They do have the rhythm, but the color helps to feel them individually as entities deserving our specific meditation or approach. And here I'm showing you an image of Master Kordis, and I would say the same thing, how carefully he managed to blend together, to find metaphorical vision of this strong red with the calmness of the green. And so many shades of green. Yes, it's the border green, it's the background green, and it's even green with interesting brownish shade for the upper garment and for the sleeves. So the small spot of red is compensated by the greenish color dissolved in the space. Good job. Real artist's work. And like, do you feel any necessities about speak about symbolism or things like that? I'm not sure we need to, because it's pure visual communication. We don't have to explain to someone that this red will mean this and that. It's a garment. It's a possibility to deliver the message. He had to have something, so the artist decided that would be the good reference point, the red. And here I'm showing you Ukrainian artist Natalia Rusetska, whom I've shown you several times in previous courses. And I would also say just wonderful work of how blue is connected with the yellowishness and how delicately it's done. So we can speak about symbolism, but we don't need to. It's enough for our eyes to be satisfied, to enjoy, to see how the total blackness below is pushing forward the figure of the bird, of the dove, walking, moving, flying towards the heavenly forces. So that's how the color works, and that's how in iconography we can learn it works. And here another one, more contemporary thing, and I can simply say just was not made by an artist. Because this person probably knew how to apply colors on paper, but this artist didn't use eyes to create an image. I guess the joy of color combination was unknown for this person. Very sad, because things like these are produced in millions of copies, pretending to be art. So it's using some rules of art, but I would rather suggest you to cover the lower part of the image, then it works. Because this red and other multicolored hands, I guess, yes, are trying to compete with the dove. They are bringing too much energy into the image already filled with necessary amount of information and good balance of gold, white, and blue. I would say yes, I would just remove the hands and that would probably be enough. Well, there might be some little accent to be added, but not that much. And again, one more thing, more iconographic, but more contemporary. And I don't know what to say. So like, did this artist ever think of how the parts of the image can work together, how the colors can be combined. I don't see anything which would tell me this was an artist, because all these colors were mechanically taken from a bottle, from a container, applied on the surface without ever having a desire to feel them, to sense how they are combined. And here is another one, a very old guy from Spain, I guess, who made the same thing, a blessing hand. But this image is not torturing people with eyes. We see he or she has said much less. Yes, we see just very small hand, not so many lines and stones and letters, but how poetic is this thing when we see the red being echoed by the brown and the yellow being accomplished with another yellow, and that's it. So it's so simple, so easy to be an artist if you try to be one. Well, the reason I'm afraid to walking into contemporary churches is I'm afraid to see things like that all the time, to be like tortured visually, to be, well, I should find the words for the next Zoom session, but yet I have none. Again, let's move forward, and I will see you just to show you something different. I was preparing for this lecture, and St. Petersburg photographer Alexander Petrosyan, very known. If you're not subscribed to him on Facebook, I strongly recommend you do. Like, it's a photograph, yeah, nothing special. He was just walking. It's a street photography. He didn't have time to put this dog right here. But how the blueness of the sky is resembled in the blueness of the snow, and is answered poetically with the red of the walls. Just a poetry in a very simple and simplistic shot, nothing really specific. Well, we are almost finished. Now one more image of Natalia Rusetska. I should get a better quality image. This one I think is too small to be shown on the screen. But anyway, just to say how little is enough for the message to be poetic, symbolic, traditional, great, artistic, what else, whatever. And the last one I'm showing you is the baptism by the teacher of many Ukrainian, Polish, and even Russian and Serbian iconographers. The name of this artist was Jerzy Nowosielski. He was a true genius. He lived, I think, till getting 95 years old, and he lived in Poland. And look how he manages together such a complex and special greenish turquoise with the brightness of the colors and composition and other things. So I'm not saying you need to paint icons all like Jerzy did, but living in our world filled with lots of very contemporary colors, we may consider using them. We don't have to ban any color. We can use all of them, but make sure you use them as an artist. Make sure you get inspired with things people create, and you share your creativity and inspiration in things which you create as an artist, not as someone who takes the paint out of container and applies on paper. I hope this may help you in your investigations. Thank you for watching.